A very good morning. You're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. We're looking at the top developments from the West Asia war. US and Iran are moving towards crucial peace talks even as tensions remain very high. Iranian delegates have already reached Islamabad while US Vice President J.D. Vance is currently en route for the talks. A temporary ceasefire is in place, but both sides continue to accuse each other of violations, raising concerns of fresh conflict, and the Strait of Hormuz remains the biggest flashpoint, with Iran restricting ship movement and impacting global oil supply. Now, the US has warned of possible military action if talks fail. Iran, meanwhile, is demanding sanctions and greater regional control. With tensions rising in nearby regions like Lebanon, the situation remains fragile as the world watches these high-stakes negotiations closely. With that, let's take a look at the key delegations of this entire, peace negotiations that are currently happening in Islamabad. This is something that we will look at. These are the probable names that are coming to the fore regarding the names of the delegations. So, in the Islamabad talks, as these have been touted, the US delegations, who are these people? The leader is Mr. J.D. Vance, who's the US Vice President, and the members of this entire delegation are Steve Witkoff, who's the special Middle East envoy of the United States. We have Jared Kushner, who is also the senior advisor, and we have Admiral Brad Cooper of the CENTCOM. So, we have a military person in place, we have a senior White House advisor, we also have a special Middle East envoy along with the Vice President, which is leading the talks. So, what are the main objectives of the entire delegation which is flying to Islamabad? The first one is ceasefire durability, the second is sanctions, and the third is regional security. So, they are looking forward to meet these three objectives: that the ceasefire holds for a longer duration of time, that if there are sanctions in place, what are the objectives of the sanction, and all the parties have to agree to it. And they are also in fact looking at making sure that the regional there is regional peace in this entire region. Let's look at the Iranian delegation, because this is also important. They are in fact also flying towards Islamabad for the talks. The leader will be Mohammad Ghalibaf, who is the Parliament Speaker. So, we had had reports earlier in the start of the war that the US was in negotiations with Ghalibaf for certain terms. So, him being the leader of the Iranian delegation goes on to say a lot. Let's also look at some of the other members who were part of this Iranian delegation. The first is Abbas Agrashi, who is the foreign minister of Iran. So, you have the foreign minister in fact accompanying the Parliament Speaker. You have Ali Akbar Ahmadian, who is the secretary of the Supreme National Defense Council. So, you have a member representing the Supreme Defense Council as well, Ali Akbar, and we also have Abdul Nasser Hemati, who is the central bank governor. So, you also have an economic a person with an economic perspective joining the Iranian delegation, because remember, Strait of Hormuz is wreaking havoc on global economy. The Iranian rial had been devastated just before this war. So, that's an interesting perspective that is coming to the fore when you are looking at the Iranian delegation. What's the main objectives for Iran? Let's look at that. Lift sanctions. They do not want any sanctions. That's what the delegation will talk about. Enrichment rights, war preparations. So, enrichment rights, like they have been talking about civil peaceful use of nuclear energy. They will be talking about the enrichment rights and also the war reparations that have happened. So, they will be seeking some sort of compensation from the warring factions and US withdrawal. So, they also want to see a withdrawal of the US forces from this entire region. So, these are some of the objectives that the Iranian delegations are carrying with them. We talked to you about what the US is expecting. let's in fact open this up with our guests who are joining us on this broadcast. Ambassador K.P. Fabian, former diplomat, and Mr. Sanjeev Srivastav, who is a foreign affairs expert. Let me first start off with Ambassador Fabian into this discussion. So, this is obviously a big relief for the world. Something on the ground is happening. We are seeing negotiations. There are delegations from both the warring factions who are in fact making their way to Islamabad. So, this is the first big step towards making sure that there is a durable ceasefire in the region. Do you believe that when we listed out the objectives, do you believe that these are objectives which will be somewhat acceptable to both the parties, sir?
Morning, Shivani. Thank you for that well-formulated question. The short answer is that, these are all what one may call the opening gambit. The Iranian desiderata, what the Iranians want, which you listed, and what you listed as Americans are seeking, these are the opening gambits. There is a lot of, give and take in such matters, point number one. Point number two, Iranians are good chess players. They do not expect America to agree to wind up their bases in the region and all that. Point number three is that there is an elephant in the room called Netanyahu, who wants the war to continue, to resume and to continue till October, when elections are due in Israel, so that his ideal will be having a ceasefire 2-3 days before the election date, project himself as the war hero, and get voted back to power. So that is where it is. Now, Iranians had put out two conditions, as you also mentioned. One is Lebanon, that is the war on Hezbollah. Well, actually it is Lebanon. It is people of Lebanon who are suffering, not only Hezbollah. And the other is frozen assets. Now, Iranians said that these two had been agreed to. Well, we do not know. But to cut it short, both Iran and Trump want a settlement. But the elephant in the room, Netanyahu, does not want it. And latest polls in Israel, as carried by the Times of Israel, show that Netanyahu's political ground is slipping. That is, if elections were held tomorrow, his party will not be close to the majority, and a party opposed to him, consisting of the far, far, far right, they will be nearer the majority, and either side would need the support of others, including the Arab parties, to form a government. Now, I don't expect any Arab party to support Netanyahu. So he is in a bit of a difficult strait, and also, the judicial proceedings against him, corruption charges going back to 2019, he has been postponing the proceedings. Now they have to start tomorrow. Today is Saturday, they have to start on Sunday. So let us see.
Absolutely. You have brought out some very pertinent points, Ambassador. I'll take that across to our other guests on the panel as well. But let me introduce